Finished. Good morning and welcome to our webinar session specifically relating to the hospitality sector. We are very welcome here this morning because we know that this is a key and very live hot topic, and the ink is not dried on some of the guidance yet from government on this. So hopefully this will prove to be a very topical and relevant webinar for you. I'm Annette Roberts and I'm the Corporate Director at South Staffs Council. On the call this morning, we also have Councillor Brian Edwards, the leader of the council, Councillor Lees, the cabinet member with responsibility within this area, and we've got a number of officers. We've got Grant Mitchell and Hayley and Liz from the business team. And also, who's delivering the presentation for us this morning, we have Jasmine Thomas, who will be leading us through that presentation and hopefully answering some of your quick queries. Now, as a sector, we know that you have dealt with some hugely uncertain times over the last couple of months, and the key message that we want to give over really is that we are here to help, and we are here to help in terms of the guidance, but also in terms of your businesses generally. So I'm sure you'll have had various conversations with Hayley or Liz or members of the team over the last couple of days in readiness for this webinar. So please use us as contacts if you want to ask us any questions. Before I hand over to Jasmine, I'm just going to pass you over to Councillor Lees, who's going to say a few words from his perspective as the cabinet lead with this area of responsibility. So without further ado, Councillor Lees.
Thank you very much, Annette. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this business seminar concentrating on the reopening of the hospitality sector. As you've just been told, I'm Councillor Roger Lees. I'm the Cabinet Member for Regulatory Services, which includes environmental health. I'm delighted to be with you this morning, along with Jasmine Thomas from the Environmental Health team. I hope you'll find this morning's event both informative and useful. We appreciate that the last months have caused some considerable degree of uncertainty for business, not least within the hospitality sector. Now that the Prime Minister has announced the relaxation of the hospitality sector, this is going to be a busy time for the businesses as you get ready to reopen. So we want to ensure we are tailoring these sessions to what you need to know in your preparation to reopen. As a council, we are really keen that we can support you to open in a safe manner and as you adapt to the recovery stage. We have many types of support we can offer, both in the practical sense now, but also in terms of being able to link you into experts who can advise you on particular matters, but be it marketing, phone lines, etc. Our team are here to help, so please contact us if you have any queries. Now I'll hand you over to Jasmine, who's going to take you through this morning's session.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Good morning, everybody. It's Jasmine Thomas, Assistant Team Manager for Environmental Health and Licensing. So my area of work is food safety, health and safety and infection control. So I'm just going to share with you a PowerPoint presentation, which hopefully you don't have to look at me directly. You've got something else that you can concentrate on as well. So I'll do that now. So hopefully you can see the presentation. Councillor Lees, would you be able to just give me a thumbs up to say that you can see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Lovely, lovely.
Okay.
So yesterday we had the announcement that the hospitality sector can reopen on the 4th of July. And that really is pubs, restaurants, cafes, hotel sector, caravans, holiday parks, campsites, bed and breakfast type of venues, which is great news. And one of the key messages that came out of that was, where possible, try and keep 2 meters apart, but where it isn't possible, then a social distance of 1 meter plus the mitigating measures should be considered. And the other point that certainly came through yesterday was for businesses to try and keep details of customers and visitors that come to them. Further details will be available on that at some point. I think the really important point to remember with whatever the COVID-19 guidance is that every business is unique and different. One size will not fit all, so whatever measures you have, it will be very, very specific to your type of business, because you'll have different approaches. Every business will be different. It'll be different in size. The layout will be quite specific. The facilities that you have, you may have a garden, you may not have a garden, you may have a yard, or you may not have a yard. So it's all very flexible. The measures that you will have will not be prescriptive, sorry. So the flexibility allows you to think about different approaches. So what we would say to you is be imaginative and be creative. So is there any official guidance as yet? Well, this came out last night and has been published this morning. It's basically the restaurants offering takeaways and delivery, which has been amended to include all the information regarding the hospitality industry. And it's now called Keeping Workers and Customers Safe During COVID-19 in Restaurants, Pubs, Bars and Takeaway Services. Social distancing of 1 metre plus. So the message is 2 metres as much as possible, or introduce 1 metre with the risk mitigations where you can't have 2 metres or where it's not viable. So it's all about reducing the risk. So it's about making sure that you can try and reduce the risk of the transmission of the virus. Do you need to keep records of your customers and visitors? Well, what the guidance is saying at the moment is it's asking for businesses to assist in the NHS test and trace by keeping the records for 21 days. Now, many businesses will have some sort of record keeping when you're taking bookings, so you will have names and a telephone contact or an email address for that business that will be able to help should there be an incidence of an outbreak or cases around that particular spot. I thought I'd like to just start off with showing a few photographs of scenarios that certainly the UK hospitality have looked at. And these following slides are courtesy of UK hospitality, so I'd like to just thank them for allowing us to use these slides. So you may have situations where a business, a premises, may have more than one entrance, so you may be able to have a customer entrance and a customer exit. You may even have a separate staff entrance or exit. That won't be the situation with all businesses where you've only have one door, for instance. You will need to think about ways to allow people in and out. And to start off with, sorry, have I lost it or? Bear with me. Something went awry there. Is that okay? Okay, so you may need to think about other ways of dealing with this. To start off with, you may need to have somebody on the door to see how your system actually works so that you can manage people coming in and out. But there's more than one solution to everything, is what we say. This is an example of a restaurant where you can, a bar where people are coming straight in, and the bar area is literally a couple of meters away. So in this sort of scenario, you'll have to think, business will have to think about ways of managing people coming in, signage to tell people where to be, where to wait or where to be seated. Avoid the need for queuing where possible, because you may need to use the outside areas for that purpose. But it's managing it by business. You may need to think about signage, arrow marks, directional signage within the pub. You may even need to think about one-way systems. And in a scenario like this where you've got a double door leading into the premises, well, the door, if it's going to be constantly opened, will be a hand contact point. So it's looking at ways of how you can get around that, keeping the doors open, for instance, during your trading hours, or possibly even removing them if it allows for safety and fire, from a fire safety point of view. It's just looking at different options that you've got based on your particular premises. So in this particular case, you can see the lady's holding the tape measure to the person behind the bar, and that's a 2-meter distance. So if the 2-meter rule had stayed in place, you can imagine that that would have caused a huge amount of problems. Reducing it to 1 meter, you can see that it'll help matters in that premises. However, they will, as a business, need to take account of the total space within the premises internally and outside, take account of what furniture exists within the premises, to think about what the likely pinch points will be within the premises. So you can see the distance where that board is placed, and the bar is probably about a meter wide. So there'll be pinch points there. So it's having to think about, well, do you need to actually reconfigure the seating and the way the furniture is set up in that premises to allow freer movement and flow of customers and staff. So with the 1 meter plus rule, what it means is that you have to think about how you're going to space your tables and chairs for customers. You need to think about whether you can do ideally back-to-back seating or side-to-side seating. In some premises, what that probably will do is UK hospitality suggests that a 1 meter rule will allow approximately 70% capacity for a business to trade. So 70% of their customers, they'll be able to get up to 70% of customers back in. Where you can't possibly put a 1 meter placement in place, then you are having to consider the use of screens and barriers. And this sort of demonstrates an example of one. With anything like this, internally and in closed places, you will need to think about increased ventilation as well. So try and keep windows and doors open in restaurant areas, bar areas, kitchens, to help with the circulation of the air within the premises, because that will help with reducing the risk with the virus. However, be mindful that this might also increase other problems, flies, for instance, in the summer, or even noise from your premises. So you do need to think about these things holistically. There have been lots of questions asked about toilet facilities for customers and staff. This is one example. When the 2 meter rule was in place, there was a suggestion that if you had a set number of urinals or toilet cubicles, that you could tape off certain ones so that you're just reducing the numbers that are available to manage how social contact or social distancing, certainly I shouldn't say contact, social distancing is in place. In this particular scenario, a 1 meter separation may be perfectly fine, so they may not need to tape off cubicles or urinals like that. But each, as I said before, each business will be an individual business, so you will have to assess what you have in place on your site to determine how safely you can do social distancing. Equally important in sanitary conveniences are the cleaning, routine cleaning. So that routine cleaning of touch points, so whether that's taps, door handles, light switches, and how often you do that routine cleaning. It doesn't mean that you have to go in and clean after each and every single customer. It's about setting in place something that you would do routinely whilst the business is open. Generally, people would have you would have done cleaning at the end of the shift or at the end of the day. But in this sort of scenario, you're looking at doing it more regularly, whether it's half an hour, every hour, but it's concentrating on the touch points where the risk is higher. By having, in this particular case, what they're looking to do is have some sanitizer outside, whether it's on a wall, whether it's on a table. Obviously, you want to make sure that people don't take that away with them, but it's a secondary control measure. So all it's doing is once you've come out of the facilities, you're able to clean your hands once again. There have been questions about stairwells and stairs. How do we make sure that social distancing is managed in those sort of places? In this particular case, the toilet facilities are upstairs. But if you've got facilities upstairs and downstairs, you may want to say females go downstairs or males go upstairs, just to sort of limit the amount of movement within the premises. You may need to think about pinch points. In which case, how can you make sure that there's either signage or something to be for public to be made aware of, that there is going to be careful of other people coming down or up the stairs. You may even want to put tape down, so you're dividing the stairs into two so that you have a one way up and one way down. We've been asked questions about, well, how do you manage people, how many people go into the toilets? As an example, there are all sorts of things that you can do. You can have markers to say this is a queuing system outside. You may even have a lighting system, which is quite expensive to install, but simple measures might just be a little bit of a red-green flag type of system where members of the public can maneuver with their elbows to say that it's now clear inside. And by placing extra sanitizer stations outside, you're mitigating the risk of spread further. Outdoor areas, again, it's trying to keep people as socially distanced as possible. It'll be easier for some businesses than others. Some businesses will have outdoor space that they can accommodate. And the risk is supposed to be reduced in the open air, but people still need to be cautious. And of course, if the weather turns and it's raining, where do people go then? And these are all considerations that you need to think about in terms of the numbers that you have on your premises as a safe number that you can manage. And it will need probably regular checks that you can undertake of patio areas or even children's play areas. And with children, the added issue of making sure that you make it clear to the parents that the children are under their supervision, again to try and mitigate the social distancing issues. So to start off with, what I would suggest to businesses is think about, do you want customers to pre-book tables when they come to your business? Do you want customers to pre-order drinks and pre-order food? Do you want to have a look at your menu and think about whether you want a full menu, or do you want to reduce the menu so that to begin with, you're managing your business when you reopen? And have a think about what numbers your premises can accommodate safely, because by doing that, you'll then be able to manage the premises and be able to manage what is called a COVID risk assessment. And this is where what we've found since lockdown is that websites and Facebook pages are crucial to a business. So if you have got websites, if you've got Facebook, start using that far more, because that seems to be a way forward for you, because in all of this, communication is going to be key. So in terms of drinks orders, what are the possible ways? Well, certainly table service is encouraged. So you can have a table service. So if people want to reorder, how do they do that? Well, you may want to think about some sort of flag system. A red flag for I'd like to be served, or green flag, I'm okay. Or even some pubs and restaurants are using coasters with a red side and a green side. So you flip the coaster to say whether you want some service or not. So that way you can try and gain, the customer can try and gain the attention of staff. The use of phone apps, that's going to certainly on the rise. You may want to have a staff member on the floor who's just doing the ordering and serving. Separate staff putting the orders together ready for service. The collection of empties and dirty crockery. Again, you'll need to think about similar ways that you can separate the roles and tasks between staff. And of course, payment. Contactless is being encouraged as much as possible. So you need to think about whether you've got card machines that are mobile. But if you're having to rely on cash, well, what's the safest ways and means that you can do that? If it's going to be at the bar, then how are you setting the bar area or the till area to make sure that that is done safely? And the most common way is to put a screen or a barrier up in that area to separate the staff and customers as safe as possible. All of these things, whether it's the coasters or whether it's a card machine, will need to be sanitized between customer use as well. So with food orders, possible ways, well, how about pre-ordering via your websites or Facebook pages? Consider table service. Menus, I've put a question mark because at the moment there seems to be of whether it's going to be various other ways that you'll be able to do that. But single-use menus or disposable menus, using apps. Again, there's quite a lot of work going on with the availability of apps. Wipeable menus, chalkboards. So if you've got a reduced menu, these are the sort of things that'll help you. But if you've got TV screens that you are able to put information on about what you do, then you could potentially use your TV screens for this as well. With any cutlery or napkins, provide them with a meal rather than allowing customers to go and help themselves from a point. So it's all about reducing the risk and mitigating those risks. Condiments, so salt and pepper or sauces. Well, the suggestion is to use sachets or individual servings rather than bottles on the table. And to serve food, the suggestion, or some of the suggestions are for waiting staff to use trays to serve. So they take the order to the table, leave it on the table, and for the customers. So if you've got a group of 4 people on a table, then it's for the customer to take the drinks or the food off the tray, rather than for the staff to give it out to each individual customer. And in the same way, to use a tray service to collect dirty crockery. And with anything else, it's the cleaning of the tables between customers, which is going to be important as well. And for the moment, buffet service is probably a no-no in the foreseeable future. But again, that might change as we move along. So mitigating measures. So this 1 meter plus. The plus is the mitigating measures, and it relates to both the staff and customers. So this is both. And there are three things essentially that you need to think about: cleaning, separation, in other words, social distancing, and time. So if you keep those three things in mind, then the mitigating measures are fairly easy to think about. So this is going to be the new norm. So in the new norm, we have to think about reminding both customers and staff in all the sectors that you're involved with about increasing hand washing or sanitizing. And that's why hand sanitizing stations and availability of hand sanitizers in your business is going to be important. So in terms of cleaning, it's about surface cleaning, hard surfaces, touch points, wherever your hands are going to are in contact with anything. Those are the sort of areas that need to be have increased cleaning. And there is a guidance for non-healthcare settings that exists, that is available, that details how to manage the cleaning side. So cleaning is one. The next is separation. So separation can be by social distancing, distance-wise, 1 meter, 2 meters, or the use of barriers where you can't have the 1 meter separation. So you may want to use perspex screens to separate seating areas, till areas, and in a restaurant or a bar scenario, think about back-to-back, 1 meter back-to-back, or 1 meter side-to-side. And although face-to-face is going to be okay for people from the same party or same household, it's not really going to be something to consider for customers, but it is important for you to think about for staff working within your premises, whether it's in the kitchen, in the bar areas, or anywhere else within your premises, because face-to-face poses the highest risk of transmitting the virus. So we're talking about distance, and for staff, you need to think about trying to reduce as much as possible the contact between each other. So think about whether you can have fixed teams or partnering in the kitchens or the bar areas. If you can, that'll help, because it's trying to reduce the number of people who come in close contact with each other. And time is important. The shorter the time you have between two individuals or two people will reduce the risk of the virus spreading. And if staff have to work face to face for any length of time, you need to think about whether they can work or whether that activity can go ahead safely. So you will need to think about other measures that you can put in place if you can't reduce that face-to-face work. And in any hospitality sector, you're going to have staff and customers coming in contact. So what you're looking at is trying to reduce that time to as little as possible to reduce that chance of transmitting that virus. So another question that gets posed quite a lot is, what about face coverings? Do I need a face mask or a face covering? Well, this is a mitigating measure where you can't put in place 1 meter plus distancing. You will need to think about this. So in scenarios, you should try and do as much as you can to have a 1 meter or 2 meters in place. In a scenario where there are going to be many people in a premises, then staff may want to wear face coverings or a face shield, but the setup in your own premises may warrant these to be as additional precautionary measures. So don't dismiss them, think about them. Face coverings or shields are being used by many businesses, and you see that quite often. Now, customers are crucial to you because they are, you need you need them to get on board with helping you to get back to business. And you need to manage them, and you need their buy-in. And to get them, and I can tell you this, managing them and their behaviour will be challenging. You can put as many measures as you can think about, but getting people to get on side and to manage their behaviour is going to be absolutely crucial. And to me, I think what we've seen over the last couple of months is that communication is key to the new norm. So be clear about what your rules are so that customers know what they are. Use Facebook, use posters, pictures, anything pictorial. If you've got TV screens, use those to demonstrate your rules. Tell your customers how to book a table. Tell them what will happen when they come in. Tell them how food and drink will be ordered. If you're in a hotel sector or a B&B, tell them how you are going to be operating. Use signs when they come to your premises. Which door to use, which door not to use, where the entrance is going to be, where the exit is going to be if you have more than one door, which way to go. Use directions, use markings, use arrows. But ultimately, don't forget to welcome them as well. Be positive, and a little bit of humanizing of all the signs and messaging that you have really helps, because you're trying to get them, they want to help you to get back into business as much as you want them to get back into business. So we've heard about COVID-19 secure, but what does that mean? Well, the government is allowing businesses to reopen as long as they have thought through the risks and put in place controls that are as reasonably practicable as possible. So it's not about totally removing the risk, because you will never be able to remove 100%. But what you're trying to do is as much as possible. And that, thinking through and putting controls in place, is called a risk assessment. And doing a risk assessment will help you to decide which actions to take. So we're just changing a template that we've got currently and simplifying it a little bit more for businesses, for you to use, so that it brings together the elements, or the main elements that you need to think about, but also what the guidance from yesterday has been introduced. So we're hoping to get that sorted at some point today, and that'll go onto our website, onto our business advice and support section. With any risk assessment, it needs to be suitable and sufficient. You need to assess the flow of your staff and customers in your premises, because ultimately it's about the safety of your staff and the safety of your customers and the public. With your staff, you need to know whether they're unwell or not before they come to work. So there are questions that you will need to be asking staff. And it's not a bad idea to actually, in your messaging to customers, is ask them not to come if they are unwell. And with any risk assessment, it will constantly change and will constantly need reviewing. And the question we pose to you is, will you do that? Because that'll help your business. And remember that it's not a once only type of risk assessment. It is liable to change and constantly move. So getting ready to open isn't just about coronavirus, but as a business, you'll need to think about other matters too. So your premises may have been closed for a while. So please have a look at this. There's a link at the bottom of this page about Legionella guidance. 6 pages, but 6 pages that are quite easy to understand, and simple measures to put in place so that you're ready to get on with the main part of your business. And don't forget the norms: the kitchen, the catering, the storerooms, the cellars, the bedrooms if you're in a hotel sector. Do a deep clean before you start. concentrate on things like fridges and freezers as well, and walk-in freezers where they may not have been working for some time or haven't been used, and you will get black mold growing in them. They may not be in the best conditions, so have a really deep clean so you are ready to start from a baseline. And remember that food hygiene hasn't changed, and it's just as important if you're in the food industry. If over time, if you are thinking about changing your menu, or in the ingredients that you use are changing, then please bear in mind the requirements for allergens. That still hasn't gone away. And generally think about your premises. Are you ready to start? Are the premises ready? Are they welcoming? Have you spruced them up? It's just general cleaning, gardening in terms of weeding and mowing. If you've got garden furniture, tables or chairs or benches, have they been cleaned? Are they ready? And think about distancing them in so that you're at some point ready to start, so that you're not having to do everything at the last moment. And finally, all we're trying to do is trying to reduce the spread of coronavirus and restarting, it should say your business safely, not you. So restarting your business safely, and buy-in is vital, because your business depends on your customers and staff buying in to your controls. So as an endpoint, please bear in mind that there are endless possibilities of how you can put controls in place. See what works for you first, and then always amend it. And hopefully this would have helped you prepare to reopen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really helpful and very useful. And hopefully the business sector will have found that useful in their readiness for getting their places ready to do business. We've had some great questions on the live question and answer session on the side of the screens that we've been answering as we've gone along in the general terms. But just to let folks know that if we haven't answered those and you've asked a specific question, don't worry, because we will contact you and we will get some information out to you. So specifically, there's questions in terms of can they have a visit from can you have a visit from an environmental health officer? Well, if you contact us, somebody will contact you. If you contact Hayley, she's given her email address, and then we'll get the right people to talk to you about what you need. So I hope that's been useful. And again, before I hand over to Councillor Edwards to close the session, just to reiterate, we are here to help. We want to help both in our ability to have the conversation with you about reopening from an environmental health point of view, but also in terms of other business support as well. You'll have seen, if you've been keeping an eye on the live chat event, that we do have a business support toolkit on our website, which really contains information and links to various different places, but also has a useful sign bank. So for things like social distancing signing, like please wash your hands signing and all those sort of things. So please do take a look at that. Without further ado, I'm going to say I'll say goodbye for this morning and then pass you over to Councillor Edwards to close this session. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all soon on any of the other sessions that we'll be running shortly. Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Oh, thank you very much, Annette. Thank you, Jasmine, for that very comprehensive presentation. Some of it was very hot off the press, even I understand, coming overnight. But thank you very much indeed. I hope you've all found it very useful. There's lots of information there, lots to do. So I just wish you well in opening your businesses. If you do have any problems, please come back to our team, and we look forward to seeing you. I believe we've got another one in 2 weeks' time, which will be possibly on tourism. So thanks very much for attending, and all the best. Thank you.